Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Biz Stories. And every week, as you know, just it's table stakes, right? All of the guests that we bring on, they've done incredible things. And today's guest, no exception, right? So you guys have gotten used to the level of talent that comes on this show. We've got John Horn. He's the CEO of StubGroup. And you're thinking, well, I might not have heard them. Then I'll be asking, what rock? They are in the top 1% of Google's partners providing services. They are a premier partner. They have generated, wait for the statistics, yeah, this is going to blow your mind, more than 3 million leads for 15,000 clients, generating 400 million in revenues. It's just like, anyway, now that I've stolen all his thunder, John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
I think the thing I didn't say is how you are the expert in pay-per-click. That is your domain.
One of those things, it's hard to claim expertise because the space changes so often. So, which is a good thing. You can't, you kind of rest on your laurels, so to speak. And so, those who are expert out there, it's all about learning, okay, what is changing day to day? What's the new thing? Because, if you're an expert 5 years ago, even a year ago, it's like, well, things pass you by. So it's a constant learning endeavor.
Absolutely. And I like to ask my guests up front, what are you, John Horn, really good at? Not what your business does. We've got a really good sense for that. You're awesome at that, right? That whole paid advertising, swim lane, got it in spades. What are you, John, really good at?
I would say Google Ads is what's closest and dearest to my heart because that's how I kind of got started in digital marketing, digital advertising, and still certainly do a lot of it, understand a lot of what's going on today as we manage it for many different clients. And yeah, so Google Ads, one of the things that I love about Google Ads is that you can quickly go out there and get in front of people and get a quick understanding of whether or not your campaigns might work, might not work. Now, what I mean by that is you're not necessarily going to have an amazing campaign day one that's generating the amount of profit you want to generate. But unlike other channels where there's certainly a place for it, things like SEO and other places, it takes time to even know, am I going to show up or not? Whereas with Google Ads, it's like, hey, right away, am I showing up? Am I not? Get immediate feedback. Are people clicking my ads? Are they converting? And so I like that really fast feedback loop and then being able to iterate upon that.
I could play a little bit with that and say, oh, so you're the instant gratification, right, business provider. But I get it. You need to understand and adapt quickly as an entrepreneur. It is all about the pivot. Read the data, what's going on, make the adjustments. And with Google Ads, as you said, you've got to play quickly because those ads can really start to add up. And if you're not involved in the middle of the campaign and making necessary changes, you're going to spend a lot of money on a bad campaign.
It's so easy to spend a lot of money on a bad campaign, like you said. I often say Google makes it very easy to spend money, but it is very difficult to make money back from that money you are spending. And so a lot of businesses, a lot of advertisers, they'll get into using Google Ads. They've got friends who are using it, or they just read, hey, you should be using Google Ads. And so they just say, great, we're going to create a campaign, we're going to create an account, start running some ads, and they just kind of follow Google's DIY, step by step process for running ads. And then they wake up a week later, a month later, and they're like, oh, we spent a bunch of money and we didn't get anything from it. And so Google Ads must not work. And at the end of the day, it's often not that Google Ads is a bad platform in and of itself, but that they just didn't approach it the right way. And then again, super easy to spend money, super hard to make money back from what you're spending.
And I'm glad that you've been able to say that and feel comfortable saying that. You are, like I said, a Google Premier partner because it's not about, oh, let's bash the system, let's bash the platform, let's bash the user. It's not any of that. It's that these systems have become inherently complex and you need to have that expertise guiding you. I mean, what are your thoughts in and around that? Is that something along with your clients are saying?
Absolutely. When you go to run Google Ads campaigns, Google tries to guide you through the process, in their platform. Anybody can go and they can run campaigns. It's not like you have a gated place where only an agency can access it. But it's very complex. Like you said, there are so many decisions. Like what type of campaign makes sense? How do I structure it? Should I write my ads? What keywords should I target? The questions go on, and then get more and more nuanced into, really specific, like this little checkbox over here It looks very benign, but if you do or don't click it, it's going to have a major impact on how your campaign performs. And there's no way that the average business owner can know all those things because this isn't their job. They're trying to run their business. And so that's where, working with someone like StubGroup or other agencies can come in and say, hey, we've done it all, we've seen it all, we know what makes sense for your business. And you can just save so much wasted ad spend and so much wasted time by cutting to the chase and setting campaigns up from day one that are more likely to, actually turn into profit for you.
One of the things we like to do on this show is upfront early offer our listeners a tip. Within our audience space, we've got a lot of folks who are entrepreneurs and or small business owners, and I know the lines are blurred. Everybody's got their own sort of definition, but that said, what's the tip of the day here that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, let's get super specific. So let's say you are running Google Ads campaigns or you're planning to run Google Ads campaigns. You need to be very cognizant of something called the search terms report in your account. And so the way Google works is you can type in keywords, which is basically telling Google, I want to target things like these. Let's say you're a plumber, target plumber near me. But then Google goes and they have a lot of flexibility for what actual searches they match to your ads. And so if you aren't looking at that actual search terms report, you may think you're getting exactly the types of searches that you want to trigger your ads, and yet you might actually be wasting a bunch of money on things that aren't quite what you think they are because Google didn't quite match search terms correctly to your campaigns, to your keywords. So look at that search terms report that tells you what actual traffic you're getting, and then you can take action from there to try and cut that wasted spend by adding things called negative keywords to your campaigns.
And maybe you want to say a little bit more about those negative keywords since now you've introduced the concept.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a great example. We had a client back in the day came to us. They're a local tree service. And so they're targeting keywords like, tree service, cut down a tree, things like that. But we went into their search terms report and Google was matching things like Dollar Tree to their keywords because tree, but Dollar Tree, not the type of traffic they're trying to go after. And so what you do is you just take that phrase, for example, you say Dollar Tree, you add that as a negative keyword. And what that does is you're telling Google, don't show my ad if someone searches for Dollar Tree. And now, if your ad can't serve, that means you don't pay any money because no one can click on your ad. And so you save all that money that they were wasting in that case on just totally irrelevant traffic.
Oh, wow. Again, it's so complicated. That's the thing, just knowing all of that and thinking, oh, did I look in the search terms report? Another thing that I've been hearing a lot from small business owners is that the bar has gotten very high with Google to get these returns. Now, it could be, again, because of a combination of the complexity of setting up the Google ads, could be, and also another factor that the person's not setting it up properly, could be that people are buying ad blockers and all these kinds of things so that they're increasingly, limiting their exposure to potential ads, and it's getting harder to see eyeballs. I guess really the net. All that said, I'm hearing that if you're not spending at least 4 grand a month on a Google ads and a campaign for 6 months, forget about it. You're not going to see a return. What are you seeing?
I would say everybody has a little bit of a different benchmark when it comes to or threshold for specific numbers. I very much agree with the concept there of you need to be investing enough money to see what's working and what's not working. If you go and you're like, hey, I got $1 a day to spend, well, you're not going to see any real results from that. And let's just say you do happen into a great lead on day 5. Awesome. But there's no way to really repeat that because you don't have enough data to know what about the campaigns worked to drive that one great lead. And so some people say 4,000. I generally say more in the $2,000 per month range. But really, whatever the number is, it's based upon how expensive the traffic is and therefore how many clicks you can get. So, for example, let's pick one of the most expensive verticals out there, personal injury attorneys. You might spend $300 for one click in that space because it's incredibly competitive. And in that case, if you're spending $4,000 a month, that's not many clicks. That doesn't really give you much opportunity. Whereas if you're in a space where it's, $1 a click, 50 cents a click, you can get way more clicks from that $2,000, which then enables you to, again, have enough of a sample size to say, hey, these keywords are working. These aren't, next month, let's double down more on this. Let's cut spend here. And then that again goes to, like you said, where you do have to allow time to collect that data and make those decisions, because it doesn't matter how good you are, how good an agency you have at your side when you start campaigns. There are always going to be things that are specific to your business, to your customers, to your geographic market and the different competitive landscape there, where you're going to have to figure out what works and what doesn't work. It's not like a magic template that you start with from day one. And so you need to have time to learn, to adjust, to test different offers, test different audiences, things like that, to really give it a fair shake and see if Google Ads is going to generate profit for you as a business.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'd like to flip a bit away from your swim lane of expertise here and talk a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey. So, the story goes, right, that John Horn at age 19 started working in his warehouse, and you and your brother teamed up and said, "Hey, let's form StubGroup and talk about advertising." But you hadn't started a business or anything in the past, and then you've gone to grow it on so quickly. Talk to us about some of the ups and downs as an entrepreneur and some of the ups and downs of working with a sibling or someone within your tight inner circle.
Yeah, fantastic question. I can add a little bit of color to that too. So, um, like you mentioned, one of the people started StubGroup was a brother of mine, and then also a long term friend of his. So the two of them kind of started things together, and they both did have a fair amount of business experience, running other ventures, being parts of other ventures. And they brought me on as basically employee number one. And so together we said, okay, let's figure this out. Let's figure out this digital advertising thing. And where we started was we ran our own ads for our own business and kind of cut our teeth. We like to say we eat our own dog food. And so that's how we started getting clients. And then, working really, really hard for those clients, figuring things out for them, building from there, getting to the place where we could then bring on additional talent, more people into the team, and just growing over the years. And so it was probably what I think 6 years ago in that range or so that I took on the CEO role myself and have been responsible for really pushing things forward, making sure the service we're delivering to our clients is excellent as possible, and so forth and so on. And it's been a journey. It's been lots and ups and downs. We've been through some interesting times. Went through 2020 and all the craziness there, which was a challenging time for pretty much every business, including marketing, because what's the first thing that you cut when you can't run as a business? It is your marketing. And so, got to weather some very fun storms over time, and yeah, really build a business that is diversified across a pretty wide client base with a lot of great team members on board who are working with our clients, and always approaching each day as, hey, how do we get better, how do we make our business more successful, and the way we do that is by making our clients more successful.
Absolutely right. It is about the clients. And I'm curious too, and I'm sure our listeners are, what's it like delegating to an older sibling, like an older crowd? I'm making an assumption here that your brother's friend was probably in and around his age and that you're younger than him. And so
Yeah.
there's always a different dynamic there. And then now your brother and his friend who started everything are beholden to you as the CEO directing really the operations of the company and the strategy. What's that been like? Or do you have to, you know, kind of pull back and down and say, in title, I'm CEO, but hey, big brother, got it, right? This was your company to begin. What's that dynamic like? Share what you can, please.
Yeah, no, it's been a great dynamic, honestly, because we approach it, I would say, probably compartmentalizing is the best way to put it. So I do think that's a lot of hard, that's very hard for a lot of family-owned businesses where you have everything bleeds together. You've got the business, you've got the family life, the dynamics, etc. And I'm not going to say that we're perfect. Obviously, nobody's perfect, but
Nobody
very much
is.
take the approach of, look, we are in business. We have a responsibility to our clients, to our team members, etc. And so we're going to make decisions that are based upon what's best for the business and what's best, what's right for our clients and team members. And so that's how we approach things. And then, outside of that, got a great relationship, family reunions together, all sorts of fun stuff. That's awesome. But when it comes to business, it's, hey, we have responsibilities and we're going to have tough conversations. We're going to push back on each other. We're going to do, whatever is needed to do right again by our clients and by our team. And yeah, we've had plenty of quote unquote fun conversations over time, but still have a great relationship because of that understanding of the different dynamics and kind of the different compartments of what our life looks like.
So is it really about putting the customer first with respect to a strategy for conflict management and negotiation within this kind of, I guess, setup for a business? Is that your advice, John, in and around there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I say when you're working with family, you just have to kind of look at first principles and say, in my role right now as, let's say, CEO or investor, whatever it is, what are the things, what is the right thing to do here? The right thing to do for our client, the right thing to do to make our business successful, the right thing to, equip our team to be successful, etc. And so, I know if I don't operate, as I need to as a CEO, I can get fired. And you know what? If I'm not doing the job I need to be doing, that's okay. And that's not something that I would hold, personally against someone, because I have responsibilities that I have to do, and I have to drive value for the company and so forth. And so it's you just gotta, from my perspective, if you're working with family as well as working with anybody, friends, just people, let's just have to approach things from first principles in that way.
But that's a lot of maturity that I'm hearing coming through that. It's like approaching things on self-principle, being able to compartmentalize. So many people that I've seen, especially in this era of a lot of chaos, uncertainty, that folks are very easily triggered emotionally. They haven't taken that time to raise the level of self-awareness and just pull back and emotionally self-regulate and focus on the goal, which is, hey, customer service. We didn't earn being in the 1%, top 1% of Google's premier partners supporting other businesses by not caring about customers. And so I just want to hear your thoughts on some of that.
Yeah, well, I think, some people, when they look at a business, kind of look at teams and whatnot, there's this idea is certainly not new to me. There's, some people talk about, hey, we're a family, and some people talk about, hey, we're a team. And I very much ascribe more to that team side of things, which is, hey, when you are a family, you kind of forgive and forget everything. You're together for forever. There's certain approaches you take where, hey, Billy over there, he's not doing a great job, but he's family. We're family. We're going to stick together. And the approach I take is, no, hey, other businesses are paying us hard-earned money to do a really good job for them. And if Billy is not doing a good job for them, then it's my duty to say, Billy, you're not, either to help Billy figure out how to do a better job, or say, Billy, and my brother's not name is Billy, not talking about my brother at all here, but just using Billy as an example here.
Sure.
Billy, you need to move on, because you're not the right fit for us to be able to do our job for our client. And so I try to have that approach with our team, where I love the people that we work with. I love to, create a culture where people can stay with us for forever. I want our team to be with us forever, but it's also a very performance oriented culture where you have to be driving value for the business. You have to be doing a good job for your clients, or I can't justify continuing to work with you, because that's not right by our clients. And that's not fair to the other team members or to the other people I could give that spot to, who do care and who do want to be successful. And so, again, my brother and his partner and I, we all approach things in that way and approach our team building in that way. And it's, you know, it can be harder sometimes. Sometimes it's easier in the short term to say, well, I'm not going to have this difficult conversation with this person. We're a family, is going to figure it out. But that's never easier in the long term. You've got to have those difficult conversations. You've got to let people go when you need to let people go. And in the long run, that's the best for all parties.
Okay, so I'm going to flip around again. And so when we get into all of the changes and things, so there's a lot going on. You see, even with the Googles and Gmails, so now they've just changed all of their business structure pricing because they want to. And again, I know you don't represent Google in that sense, so I'm going to be careful about that. You'll see where my question is going. So lots of changes with respect to, oh, we've added AI to the platform now. So of course, there's a higher cost. Vendors have been flagged as vendors, so they're typically going to the either the spam or the promotions box, things like this. And so I can see how a lot of small business owners have become a bit disenchanted trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? Is there a better option? I mean, we all know there really isn't. But if it's making them more hesitant to do ads. What can they do in the interim to kind of build up some of that confidence and what they need so they can be prepared to launch a campaign using the power of Google Ads? Tell us about those interim steps if they're feeling hesitant for whatever reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions we could take this. the first direction I'll take it is put yourself in the shoes of people of your customers, your ideal customer, and think through how are they finding information online? How are they finding the service that you want to sell to them? And then think through, okay, what are the different ways that I can do to try and be there? So, for example, again, Google is the first place that a lot of people go to search for services, but Google Ads also is not the only way to show up there. You have, your Google Business Profile, which if you're a local business, that's incredibly important. That's the thing that pops up if you're looking for, a plumber or a restaurant or things like that locally, and that's free. And so you can make sure you're claiming your profile, you're building it out with as much information as possible, you're collecting reviews from people. So those are things that you can just do at no additional outlay of expense that can help people find you. Reviews also super, super important. People want to know who they're working with. And so the more reviews that you can collect and encourage people to give you across different platforms, the more you're going to be building up that digital footprint and building up. So when someone searches for either a service that's relevant to you, or they've come across you and they're saying, hey, XYZ reviews, like what is the name, what's the credibility of this particular company? That's again another, free way of making sure that you're getting that business. And then the last thing I would say is we're in a very interesting time right now with,
At the
like you
least.
mentioned, as Google's adding AI, you've got ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, all these different large language models, which are beginning to take search impression share. People are beginning to start their searches for information and for services in these places. And so right now, there's a lot of research and testing being put into how do these people, how do these LLMs pick who they talk about? And how can we make sure, just like we might do SEO for ranking on Google, how can we make sure that someone searches for best plumber in my area on ChatGPT, that they're going to find your business? And so I would encourage all business owners to be really familiarizing themselves with the different AI tools that people are starting to use to search for solutions. And then also to be creating content on their websites so that these different tools, not just Google, but everything else, is going to be able to find that content, and you're going to increase the likelihood that you're going to show up as a solution when people are using these various tools to search for you.
And just I want to tailgate on that comment that you made about how these Gen AI tools are starting to cut into the dominance really that Google's had for 20 plus years as the search engine, right? I mean, it buried Yahoo. We got to look at that. I remember back in the day when I was in Silicon Valley, Yahoo had just started to rise to prominence, and there were the, I don't know, red cheetah spots or whatever it was, wallpaper, and the big red lava lamps. And I mean, like that was where it was at. And then Google, what's this Google thing, right? And then you look now, of course. But I just saw an interview I was watching on TV on Bloomberg with Emily Chan, and she was interviewing the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, and said, "Oh, okay, what do you think about this dominance being cut into?" And he had a really sophisticated answer, as you'd expect, that there's all different ways to cut and to use the data. And as you've just said, we all need to be prepared to be findable in every way that we can. Can you say a little bit more about what that means and what kinds of things we should be doing on our website to boost our findability?
Yeah, so really think about your website as a small business as this is your place to say everything you want to and can say about who you are and the service that you provide to people. And so a lot of small businesses, they either don't have a website or they spend very, very little time on their website. They may be talking to clients all day long, answering the phone or whatever, and they haven't been to their website in weeks. And so sometimes it's as simple as man, your website doesn't even work properly. Like there's broken links, there's all sorts of things. And I get it. It's really easy to not even think about those things because you're so busy doing the work people are hiring you for. You're talking to them that you're not, kind of like the plumber who his own faucet is leaky. It's this idea where you're doing everything for your customers and you're not going and looking to see what does your actual experience look like when customers are checking you out. And so you want to build out as much as you can on your website. You want to, say helpful information about what you do. You want to have credibility elements like your reviews, like, hey, if you are Better Business accredited, if you have, got some local awards or whatever, people aren't going to magically know those things. Put those things on there, emphasize those things. If you have special offers, you've got to tell people. You don't want to wait for someone to pick up the phone to call you to then say, oh, yeah, we got a 30% offer on this. the purpose of the offer is to get them to call you to begin with. So you've got to emphasize that and feature that. And if you're in a, if you're in an industry where it makes sense to create content about that industry, which most industries it is, you can start writing content. If you're a tree service, you can write content about, hey, here's when you should be thinking about your trees, and here's different tree types, and hey, people are looking to plant trees, and there's all sorts of things that you can do to try and become an expert locally in your area that will again help people find you on Google and in the LLMs, and just ultimately be providing value to your community, which then generally comes back in a way that gives you value because people go to the places that give them value.
For people to run Google Ads, do they need to have their Google My Business page up to snuff? And why I ask this is that I recently heard a stat that something like over two-thirds of businesses haven't claimed their Google My Business page.
A lot of businesses absolutely have not claimed their page, and for local businesses I would say claiming it is a must because it's free to do. It's not always easy because sometimes they do like to suspend pages, and then it's a real fun nightmare of getting that fixed, but hopefully you don't run into that. So it's free to do. It's not hard to put information on there. It's pretty straightforward. And then when you are running local ads, Google definitely incorporates your Google business profile into those ads to a certain extent, and that can improve your performance from your ads. So I would say it's not technically required. You can certainly run ads without having a profile, but if you are a local business where kind of geography matters, then it's a no-brainer to go ahead and get that set up and to take advantage of that free opportunity.
Is we're winding down the podcast. Can you share how vendors can do a little better job asking for those reviews? So many like, ooh, I don't want to ask for the testimonial. I don't want to ask for the Google review. But we just heard that it could be really important with respect to their level of visibility and ad performance, especially in a local environment.
Getting reviews is so key. Yeah, and there are a lot of strategies. Let's go through a couple. First is just actually asking. It's like you said, most businesses don't ask, and you're not usually going to get reviews. Every now and then you get a review, but if you don't ask people, most people just won't think to do it. So ask and have a system in place to proactively do that. B, you can get creative. So, for example, I've seen companies do things where they'll tie it to the specific rep that worked with them. So, for example, I got my garage door repaired one time, and I forget the rep's name. Let's just call him Bill again. And so I got a text after Bill came out and fixed my garage door, and the text said something like, "Hey, if you leave us a positive review, we'll give Bill a $50 gift card," or something like that. It was tied to that human relationship that I had created with that person who came out and fixed my problem. So you can tie it to that. You can, of course, you can do other things like, hey, enter a giveaway for a review, things like that. There's lots of ways to incentivize people to leave a review. But just A, ask for it. B, make it really easy for them. Send them a text with a link to where they can leave the review. If you're a local business, have the QR code on your table or whatever so people can scan and leave that review. And those things are vital at both just your rankings. It's a big part of Google Business Profile rankings is how many reviews you're getting and if you continue getting those. And it just has a massive impact on how people view you because people, again, they read reviews before they choose who to work with. And if you've got lots of good reviews from people saying they had a good experience with you, it's going to have a massive impact on new business coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those tips. So, John, where can people find you in StubGroup?
Yeah, so website stubgroup.com. And we've got a number of different free resources for small businesses. Just go to stubgroup.com/free. And then also our YouTube channel, search StubGroup on YouTube. We put out lots of free content again on there about advertising, marketing, success in small business. And so yeah, go subscribe there.
Okay, easy peasy. Last question. It's our signature question, modified over the years here as we've been running the podcast. But question is, if you gave viewers a look into your closet, what kind of clothes or shoes, footwear, anything represents you, John Horn? And when you wear that, you're like, yeah, this is me. This personifies who I am. And I feel like $1,000,000 when I'm wearing this because why? And what is it?
I'll take that a slightly different direction. That if you looked at my
Sure.
closet right now on the floor, you would see a bunch of replica swords, similar to the one I have behind me. And I'm a history buff. I love history, and I just kind of collected a bunch of swords over time. And yeah, every now and then, back in the day, I used to do a little reenacting here and there. And as my kids get older, I look forward to going out in the backyard and having some sword play with them.
Wow, I have to say, no one has ever answered that. And I don't think in the next 250 guests that we're going to get that answer. So I love it. I think it's such a fun question because it speaks to the uniqueness of each of us, right? We've all got a story, hence the small business stories that we're on. So with that, John, thank you for a tremendous episode enlightening all of us on how to get the most out of our paid ads. And for those of us that are stuck and don't know what to do, we know who to come to. StubGroup.com. Thank you, John.
Thanks so much for having me.